There's a quiet revolution unfolding, not outside in the world of politics or technology, but deep within us, at the very level of ourselves. For years, we've been told that we are victims of our DNA, passengers on a ship steered by fixed genetic codes. But what if that's not the whole story? What if beliefs, those invisible thoughts we carry, hold more sway over our biology than the genes themselves? This idea challenges everything we've come to accept about health, change, and personal power. And it's the central theme of what you're about to explore tonight. To begin understanding this shift, we need to look at a basic assumption we've long carried, that biology is destiny. That genes are like little programs running in the background, deciding whether we'll get sick, how we'll behave, and how long we'll live. It's a view rooted in Newtonian science, mechanistic, fixed, and largely out of our hands. But science evolves, and what's emerging now through the lens of quantum biology and epigenetics is a view far more empowering. Genes are not dictators, they're more like instruments, and the conductor, what determines how they're played, is often something as subtle and powerful as belief.
This shift in thinking doesn't come from speculation, but from careful observation. It began when cell biologists started noticing that identical cells placed in different environments would behave in dramatically different ways. One would thrive, another would shrink, another would even die, all with the same DNA. What changed wasn't the cell, it was its environment. And here's where things start to get interesting. For human beings, our primary environment isn't just physical, it's perceptual. Our mind is the filter that interprets the world, and our body reacts not just to what is, but to what we believe is happening. This leads to a startling conclusion. If our cells respond to the signals they receive from our perceptions, and those perceptions are shaped by belief, then belief itself has biological consequences. Imagine that for a moment. Believing you are loved can activate cellular repair. Believing you are unsafe can trigger stress hormones and inflammation. Your thoughts, those silent whispers in your head, are literally shaping the chemistry of your body one message at a time.
To explain how this happens, we need to understand the role of the cell membrane. It's often called the brain of the cell, not the nucleus, as previously believed. The membrane reads signals from the environment and decides how the cell will respond. It's like a gatekeeper, a translator. And the signals it receives are not just chemical, but energetic. Thoughts produce vibrations. Emotions carry frequency. The cell membrane listens, and it acts accordingly. Now, think about the power of that. You are not merely a bundle of flesh moved by mechanical parts. You're a dynamic, sensing being, constantly translating energy into biology. If you wake up afraid, your body enters protection mode. It restricts blood flow, diverts energy to your limbs, and shuts down growth. But if you feel safe, connected, and joyful, your body opens, it heals, it thrives.
What's truly astonishing is that these responses happen whether the threat is real or imagined. If you merely believe something is dangerous, even if it's not, your body reacts as if it is. That means healing is not only about removing external danger, but shifting internal perception. Changing your thoughts, your self-talk, and your emotional lens may be one of the most powerful health interventions available, and it's completely free. But why does this idea feel so foreign to us? Partly because we've inherited a scientific model that separated mind from body. That model, born in the Enlightenment, helped give rise to modern medicine and technology, but it also cut us off from our inner power. We've been trained to look for answers outside ourselves, in prescriptions, procedures, and diagnoses. While these tools have value, they are incomplete without addressing the internal environment, your consciousness, your beliefs, your identity.
This brings us to an even deeper realization. Belief doesn't just influence healing, it shapes development from the start. During early childhood, our brains are in a highly suggestible state. The subconscious mind is wide open, soaking in messages without resistance. If a child is told they're not smart, not worthy, or not loved, that message gets stored like a blueprint. And long after they forget the words, their cells still respond to the belief. That's why personal growth isn't just about learning something new. It's often about unlearning what you once accepted as true. So how do we change those beliefs? How do we speak to the subconscious mind in a way that invites new biology? One answer lies in repetition. The subconscious learns through practice, not logic. It's the part of your mind that learns to ride a bike, not understand why bikes work. If you want to install new beliefs, ones of safety, abundance, or healing, you must feed them gently, consistently. Affirmations, visualization, meditation, all of these are ways of speaking to the body's operating system.
Another key is emotion. The subconscious speaks the language of feeling. That's why beliefs charged with strong emotion, whether joy or fear, have such a powerful impact. When you say, "I am enough," but feel like a fraud, your body listens to the emotion, not the words. This is why healing isn't about positive thinking alone. It's about aligning thoughts with deeply felt truth. And sometimes that means working through old pain, not avoiding it. This is where biology and spirituality meet, not in mysticism, but in grounded, embodied truth. You are a system of systems, alive with intelligence, capable of changing itself from the inside out. Your brain is not a static organ, it rewires. Your cells are not fixed in fate, they respond. And your mind is not a passive observer, it's the master switch, the storyteller behind the scenes, influencing every breath, heartbeat, and hormonal signal. So tonight, as you let yourself drift deeper into rest, consider this. Every thought you choose is like a drop in an ocean of biology. It ripples, it echoes, and it writes messages into your cells. You are not at war with your body. You are not a victim of your past. You are a living expression of your beliefs, moment by moment. And that means at any moment, you can begin again.
As you settle deeper into the quiet of this moment, let's go further into what this perspective actually means for your life. Because once you begin to see yourself not as a victim of your biology, but as a participant in it, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not waiting for healing to come from outside, or for success to be handed to you, or for happiness to arrive someday. You begin to see that your thoughts are not just fleeting inner chatter, they're blueprints, instructions being handed down to your biology, moment by moment. That's a kind of responsibility, but also a profound liberation. We often assume that change is hard, that transformation takes years of struggle. But when you shift a belief deeply, sincerely, the body follows quickly. In fact,
The body often waits for the mind to catch up. It's not biology that's stubborn. It's the stories we've been telling ourselves, sometimes since childhood. Stories like, "I'm not enough," "I'll never change," "This is just how I am." But what if those stories were never true? What if they were just early impressions absorbed during a time when your subconscious was wide open, unguarded, trusting of whatever it heard?
See, your subconscious isn't judging. It doesn't weigh facts. It simply accepts. In childhood, when the brain is in theta waves, like a light meditative state, we absorb beliefs from parents, teachers, media, and culture. Some of those are empowering, many are not. And over time, those beliefs settle in, creating invisible boundaries for what we think is possible. They guide our behaviors, our reactions, even our physiology. And we don't question them because they feel like truth. But truth and familiarity are not the same thing. This is why many people, even when they try to change, feel stuck. They set goals, repeat affirmations, maybe even visualize. But if their subconscious blueprint is still running the old story, the biology won't follow. The stress hormones will still spike. The immune system will still suppress. The energy will still leak out through fear or doubt. It's not about willpower. It's about rewriting the script beneath the surface. That's where real change begins. Not in force, but in alignment.
One of the most powerful ways to begin this shift is through conscious reprogramming. When you're in a relaxed, focused state, such as just before sleep or during meditation, your brain re-enters that theta range. That's when the gate between conscious and subconscious is open. In those moments, you can plant new beliefs, not by shouting them, but by gently suggesting them. I am safe now. I deserve love. My body knows how to heal. When repeated with feeling, these suggestions begin to create new patterns, new emotional signatures, and over time, new biology. It's not magic, it's cellular communication. Every cell in your body is listening to the chemical signals your brain sends out, and those signals are determined by perception. Change perception, change the chemistry. Change the chemistry, change the outcome. This is the essence of epigenetics. Your genes don't operate in isolation. They're like light switches, turned on or off depending on environmental cues. And the strongest cues aren't just physical surroundings, they're emotional states.
Stress, for example, is a massive biological trigger. When you feel threatened, your brain sends a signal to release cortisol and adrenaline. These are useful in short bursts. They prepare you to run or fight. But in chronic stress, they become harmful. They suppress the immune system, inhibit digestion, disrupt sleep, and even shrink areas of the brain responsible for memory. This is why beliefs of fear and helplessness are not just unpleasant, they're toxic to the body over time. But here's the hopeful part. The reverse is also true. When you feel safe, when you experience love, when you believe in your own worthiness, your body enters growth mode. It releases oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. These chemicals support healing, connection, rest, and regeneration. You could say that love, biologically speaking, is the antidote to fear. And love doesn't always mean romance. It can be the simple act of believing you are enough, right now. It can be choosing kindness in your self-talk. It can be pausing to breathe when your mind starts racing.
Another concept worth exploring is the placebo effect. Often dismissed as irrelevant, the placebo is actually one of the most powerful demonstrations of the biology of belief. People given sugar pills but told they're receiving medicine often experience real healing. Why? Because the mind believes in the cure. And that belief triggers the body's own healing mechanisms. Conversely, in what's known as the nocebo effect, people can experience side effects from harmless substances simply because they expect them. This shows us something crucial. It's not always the substance that heals or harms, it's the perception. This has massive implications. It means that your beliefs can activate or deactivate healing responses, not in a vague spiritual way, but in a concrete biochemical way. Your body listens to your expectations. So when you expect decline, you signal the biology of decay. When you expect vitality, you activate the biology of resilience. And over time, those expectations become self-fulfilling.
So what kind of beliefs are you carrying, often without even realizing it? Beliefs about aging, about success, about health, about your body's abilities. Start to notice them. Write them down. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is it based on truth or just repetition? And most importantly, do I want to keep it? This is not about blaming yourself for illness or difficulty. It's about reclaiming authorship. It's about recognizing that you have more influence than you've been told. And that influence doesn't come from control, but from awareness. When you become aware of your thoughts, without judgment, you create a space of choice. And in that space, new biology begins to bloom.
Another powerful area of exploration is coherence. When your heart and brain are in sync, when your thoughts and emotions are aligned, you enter a state of harmony that can be measured electrically. This state, often achieved through breathwork, gratitude, or meditation, creates a cascade of positive effects. It improves immune function, stabilizes hormones, enhances focus, and even influences the electromagnetic field around you. It's as if the body responds not just to words or ideas, but to the harmony between them. Now, none of this means you'll never face challenges. Life will still bring loss, pain, and uncertainty. But with this perspective, you meet those moments with a different foundation. You know that your body is not against you. You know that your thoughts matter. You know that your biology is not fixed. It's fluid, adaptable, intelligent. And that gives you the courage to keep going, even when the road is dark.
So as this night deepens, let your mind soften. Let your thoughts drift toward possibility. You don't have to fix everything right now. You don't have to know how it all works. Just know that inside you is a vast intelligence, listening and responding to your beliefs. Be kind with those beliefs. Be gentle with the story you tell yourself, because that story is being written into your cells even as you sleep. And perhaps that's where the real healing begins, not in trying harder, but in believing deeper, not in fighting the body, but in befriending it, not in seeking something out there, but in remembering what was always within.
When we talk about healing, most people imagine medicine, surgery, supplements, or time. But what if true healing begins before any of those steps, at the level of belief? It's a subtle shift, but a powerful one. Healing doesn't mean simply fixing a problem. It means returning the body to a natural state of harmony. And that process starts in the mind. Not in a superficial way, but in how we view ourselves, our lives, and the world we live in. The subconscious mind, running beneath our awareness, is where our patterns are rooted. And that's where lasting change begins. Imagine the subconscious like a powerful autopilot system. From the moment you wake up, your habits, reactions, and feelings often stem from deeply held assumptions you didn't consciously choose. You brush your teeth, reach for your phone, check messages, stress about the day. These patterns are automatic, and they feel natural only because they've been repeated. The body has memorized them. But here's the thing. Just because something feels automatic doesn't mean it's fixed. Even the most unconscious routines can be changed with awareness and repetition.
Bruce Lipton emphasizes that power lies not in positive thinking alone, but in what he calls positive belief that is accepted by the subconscious. It's not enough to repeat affirmations while your inner voice says the opposite. That creates conflict, not change. Real transformation happens when your subconscious agrees with your conscious desires. When your belief in your own healing, growth, or worth is felt as truth, not hope. This alignment is what shifts chemistry, physiology, and even gene expression. One striking example Lipton discusses is organ transplants. There are documented cases where recipients begin to develop preferences, talents, or memories that align with the donor. A woman who never liked music suddenly becomes obsessed with classical piano. A man who hated spicy food starts craving hot salsa. These may sound strange, but they point to something deeper. That information is not only stored in the brain, it's also carried in the cells. Memory, preference, and consciousness are not limited to the head.
This cellular memory reinforces the idea that what we think and feel is not confined to the mind. It's embedded in every part of us. Our beliefs literally take root in our biology, and that's where the beauty lies. Because if beliefs can be harmful, they can also be healing. If cells can carry stress, they can also carry peace. But peace doesn't arrive through force. It arrives through presence, through practice, through choosing again and again to return to the truth of who you are beneath the noise. A big part of healing involves letting go, not just of unhealthy habits, but of the beliefs that keep you attached to them. Maybe it's the belief that you're not worthy unless you're constantly productive, or the belief that rest is laziness, or that your body is broken and needs fixing. These ideas may not have started with you. Often they were passed down from parents, teachers, culture, and you accepted them because you didn't know any different. But now you do. Now you can begin to unlearn. Reprogramming the subconscious is possible. It just requires repetition, emotion, and consistency. Visualization, hypnosis, and theta state learning, right before sleep or after waking, are powerful tools. When you repeatedly imagine a new outcome, especially with feeling, your body begins to respond as if it's already happening. Neural pathways begin to form. Chemistry starts to change. You don't have to fake it. You're simply practicing a new internal environment until it feels safe and familiar. And this doesn't only apply to illness. It applies to creativity, relationships, career, any area of life. If you believe you're unlucky in love, or bad with money, or not meant to succeed, those beliefs will quietly sabotage you. They'll filter your perception so you only see evidence that supports the story. But once you challenge the story, once you ask, "Is this really true?" you make space for new possibilities. And that space is where change begins.
Another fascinating insight Lipton offers is about the influence of the environment on stem cells. In experiments, genetically identical stem cells placed in different petri dishes develop into completely different types of tissue depending on the chemical environment they're in. One becomes bone, another muscle, another fat. Same DNA, different outcome based entirely on the surroundings. This is a direct, observable version of what happens in our bodies. We are, essentially, walking petri dishes, and our beliefs shape our chemical environment. Stressful thoughts, fear-based beliefs, self-criticism, these flood the internal environment with chemicals that signal danger. Healing shuts down, digestion pauses, inflammation rises. But the opposite is true too. Loving thoughts, trust, gratitude, they send signals of safety. And in safety, the body thrives. It regenerates, it grows, it heals. This is why emotional well-being isn't a luxury, it's a biological necessity.
Many people spend years searching for the perfect diet, supplement, or treatment plan. And while those things matter, the terrain they're entering matters more. You could have the best nutrition, but if your internal environment is one of stress and fear, the absorption and integration will suffer. You could be doing all the right things externally, but without belief, the cells won't respond the same way. That's why the inner work is not separate from health, it's central to it.
Much of what we consider to be fate or genetics is actually the result of habitual programming. From birth to age 7, our minds are in a highly impressionable state, absorbing everything around us like a sponge. In this early window of life, our brain operates primarily in theta brainwave states, which are associated with hypnosis and deep learning. During this time, we form core beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. These beliefs become the foundation for how we think, behave, and react, usually without ever being questioned. What's important to recognize is that these beliefs weren't consciously chosen. They were inherited. Many of those early messages were helpful, but many were limiting. Think about phrases you might have heard growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. You're not good at math. You'll never be successful if you don't follow the rules. These statements become embedded into the subconscious and start to act like filters. They quietly determine how much you'll try, how resilient you'll be, what goals you set, and even how you treat your body. The biology follows the belief, and unless you interrupt the cycle, those beliefs silently run your life. Lipton explains that your biology listens more closely to your beliefs than it does to your genes. Genes are blueprints, not fixed outcomes. They can be turned on or off depending on the signals they receive from their environment, including the environment created by your thoughts. If the dominant belief is, "I can't," your body aligns with that message. If the belief shifts to, "I'm capable," "I'm healing," or "I'm learning," everything within you begins to align with that instead. The genes are simply responding to the instructions they're given. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about realizing that reality is often filtered through beliefs that were never yours to begin with. Once you understand this, you gain the ability to reprogram. And reprogramming isn't just a mindset shift, it's a biological act. You are literally sending new instructions to your cells. Every affirmation, visualization, or new belief practiced consistently begins to influence the way your body expresses itself. Over time, the brain forms new wiring, and the cells adapt to the new energetic blueprint. Lipton highlights the power of placebo as a striking example. When people believe they are receiving a treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill, they often show measurable improvements. Their body responds not to the pill, but to the belief that healing is happening. This response can be so strong that it rivals or even surpasses the actual drug. The flip side is the nocebo effect. When a person believes something will harm them, their body reacts accordingly. It's not imagination, it's biochemical response. This shows that belief is not a passive state, it's an active ingredient in your biology. So what does this mean for how we live day to day? It means that your inner dialogue matters. The words you say to yourself, the stories you repeat, the emotions you entertain, they shape your biology. When you constantly rehearse fear or self-doubt, your body prepares for threat. When you cultivate hope, confidence, and love, the body prepares for growth. This is not a metaphor. It's how hormones, neurotransmitters, and cells actually respond. For years, people believed that biology was destiny, that whatever genes you were born with, whatever illnesses ran in your family, that's what you had to live with. But this book challenges that assumption completely. Epigenetics, the science of how environment influences gene expression, proves that your choices, habits, emotions, and beliefs can activate or suppress genetic tendencies. You may have inherited the blueprint, but you're still the architect. And every day you lay the bricks of your health with your thoughts. To work with this process rather than against it, awareness is key. You begin by noticing your triggers. When do you feel small, stuck, or reactive? What beliefs are hiding underneath those reactions? Often, what's buried deep down is the belief that I'm not enough or I'm not safe. These aren't facts, they're old programs, and once you see them, you can choose again. You can question the belief. You can update the programming. It takes practice, but it also brings freedom. You're not at the mercy of old wiring. Changing belief isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding truth beneath the noise. The truth that you are powerful, that your thoughts matter, that your body listens. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but every moment of conscious choice, every time you choose peace instead of panic, compassion instead of criticism, you're changing the signals your body receives. And with new signals, new biology unfolds. This opens the door to a life that's not ruled by fear, but led by trust, not controlled by the past, but shaped by presence. And once you realize that, the real question becomes, what kind of life will you choose to believe in?
One of the most empowering realizations from this work is that you are not a passive observer of your life. You are an active participant, and the role you play begins with the way you perceive the world. Perception is not just a mental activity, it becomes a physical command. What you expect to see, how you interpret what happens to you, and the way you react, these all shape the chemical messages your brain sends to your body. A fearful perception creates a fearful biology. An empowered perception builds resilience, even in challenge. Take the immune system, for example. Under threat, it goes on high alert, but it can't stay there forever. Chronic stress, whether from your environment or from your thoughts, leads to constant immune suppression. The body keeps bracing for impact, like a soldier in an endless war. Over time, this weakens your ability to repair, detoxify, and regenerate. On the other hand, a perception of safety allows your biology to rest, recover, and grow. The key difference isn't just what's happening externally, it's how your system interprets it. And interpretation isn't always accurate. Two people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently. One may feel defeated, another may feel motivated. That gap, the space between stimulus and response, is where beliefs live. If your subconscious holds the belief that you're not in control, that things always go wrong, or that you're cursed with bad luck, then even neutral situations will seem threatening. But the moment you begin to challenge those assumptions, you start to alter your internal signals. This shift
doesn't require willpower alone. In fact, Lipton makes a clear distinction between the conscious mind and the subconscious. The conscious mind is creative, aware, capable of dreaming and imagining new outcomes, but it's slow and often distracted. The subconscious is lightning fast, handling over 90% of your daily actions, but it's habitual. It runs on patterns. If those patterns aren't aligned with what you want, they'll keep pulling you in the opposite direction, no matter how much effort you apply. To change those patterns, repetition is essential. Just like learning to walk or ride a bike, your new beliefs need consistent practice, not forced or frantic, but steady and intentional. Visualization, affirmations, and emotionally charged experiences are tools that help imprint new ideas into the subconscious. But even more important is congruence. Your actions need to align with your new beliefs. Every time you act in accordance with a new identity, you strengthen it. For instance, if you're trying to believe that you're worthy of love, but you keep saying yes to people who treat you poorly, your biology gets mixed signals. But the moment you set a boundary, no matter how small, you send a different message: I matter. That message doesn't stay in your mind, it enters your cells. It shapes posture, tone of voice, hormone levels. One act of alignment can have more impact than 100 repeated affirmations if it's felt deeply and supported by action. Lipton also explores the impact of community and social environments on belief. You're not just shaped by your inner world, you're influenced by the conversations, culture, and collective energy around you. If you're surrounded by people who reinforce limitation, fear, and scarcity, it's harder to maintain a mindset of possibility. But if you consciously choose uplifting environments, books, relationships, music, habits, you begin to create a field of reinforcement for your new beliefs. You stop swimming upstream. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending that pain or difficulty doesn't exist. It's about realizing that biology is malleable, that even in the presence of struggle, you have the power to choose how you interpret it. And that choice ripples into every part of your being. If you believe that you can learn from it, grow through it, even transform because of it, then your biology will follow that lead. The transformation begins in the unseen, at the level of perception. What makes this approach so unique is that it brings together the science of biology with the deeper truths of human experience. It doesn't ask you to choose between logic and intuition, science and spirit. Instead, it shows that they've been connected all along, that your emotions aren't separate from yourselves, that your mindset is not just personal, it's physiological, and that your daily thoughts are quietly writing instructions your biology carries out. Once you internalize this, you start to live differently. You notice your reactions, you question your stories, you create space between impulse and response, and in that space, there's freedom. Not instant perfection, but awareness. And from awareness comes choice, and from choice comes change. Not just in your mood or your attitude, but in your chemistry, your immune function, and your overall vitality.
As your understanding deepens, something fundamental begins to shift: the way you view yourself in relation to the world. If you once felt like life happened to you, this new lens reveals that life often happens through you. The beliefs you carry, those rooted deep in the subconscious, act like filters, shaping how you interpret what's possible, what's threatening, and what you deserve. These filters aren't just mental constructs, they're physiological programs that quietly determine the trajectory of your choices, your relationships, and even your health. Bruce Lipton reinforces a key idea again and again. Your body doesn't know the difference between what you vividly imagine
and what's physically happening. If you imagine a stressful scenario, your biology reacts with the same cascade of cortisol and adrenaline as if it were happening in real time. Conversely, if you imagine a peaceful or empowering situation, your body relaxes, restores, and strengthens. This means your mind can rehearse the future not just mentally, but biologically. You can train yourselves to align with a new reality before it even arrives. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's observable science. Neuroplasticity shows that the brain rewires based on experience and repetition. Epigenetics shows that gene expression changes in response to signals. The bridge between those two fields is you, the conscious, aware being who can choose new inputs. You're not trying to fake reality. You're training your body to expect and create a reality you haven't yet fully lived but deeply believe in. That belief becomes the framework that biology builds on. There's a reason affirmations alone often don't work. If you repeat something your subconscious doesn't believe, the internal conflict creates tension. But when your actions, environment, and emotions support the new belief, the subconscious begins to accept it. This is why Lipton emphasizes coherence. Your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors need to move in the same direction. Not perfectly, but consistently enough that your system starts to feel safe with the change. One simple example. If you believe you're becoming more confident, you can support that belief by adjusting posture, tone of voice, and eye contact. Those physical shifts feed back into the nervous system, creating a loop that strengthens the new identity. Over time, confidence isn't something you perform, it's something you embody. And your biology follows suit. Lower stress markers, improved digestion, more stable energy. That's the power of belief in motion.
What's often overlooked in transformation is patience. Your cells renew over time. Your brain needs repetition to rewire. Your nervous system needs space to regulate. This isn't a race, it's a rhythm. And honoring that rhythm allows the new patterns to settle in deeply. The most lasting change doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency. From the daily choice to practice new ways of thinking, speaking, and being, even when the results aren't instant. This practice is especially powerful when it comes to healing. The mind-body connection means that belief can speed recovery, reduce inflammation, and even shift pain perception. But it also means that chronic negative beliefs about aging, illness, or unworthiness can hold healing at bay. That's not to say belief alone is a cure for everything, but it's a crucial part of the equation. A hopeful belief creates space for biology to cooperate with recovery, while a hopeless belief can suppress it.
Lipton draws attention to cultural programming, too. Many of our beliefs aren't personal, they're inherited from parents, school, religion, media, and peers. These programs often go unquestioned for years, if not decades. But just because something was repeated to you doesn't make it true, and just because it's common doesn't make it healthy. As you start to examine these inherited beliefs, you reclaim authorship over your mind and body. You stop living someone else's script. This reclamation leads to one of the book's most liberating insights: that change doesn't require outside permission. You don't need a perfect past or external validation. You need willingness. Willingness to look honestly at the beliefs that no longer serve you. Willingness to update your inner programming. Willingness to act, speak, and feel in alignment with a healthier version of you. That willingness sends the first signal, and biology listens. As you continue forward with this awareness, a new relationship begins to form, not just with your body, but with the power you've always had, but perhaps never trusted. It's not about ego. It's not about being in control of everything. It's about understanding that you are not separate from your biology. You are the voice it listens to most. When that voice becomes grounded in intention, clarity, and belief in growth, everything inside you starts to adapt accordingly.
Once this awareness becomes part of how you see the world, you begin to notice the subtle ways belief directs not just your biology, but your destiny. You realize that every time you respond to life from a place of fear, resentment, or powerlessness, you're reinforcing an old signal to your body. And every time you respond with curiosity, compassion, or courage, you send a new signal, one that opens doors to change at the cellular level. It's not about pretending bad things don't happen. It's about choosing how you interpret and integrate those experiences. The signal matters more than the story. Lipton explains that our perceptions are not neutral, they're active forces. A person who sees life as abundant walks through the same world as someone who sees it as threatening, but their biology, their energy, and even the opportunities that come their way differ drastically. Why? Because their beliefs filter what they notice, how they act, and what kind of feedback they invite from others. Your biology isn't just shaped by your environment, it's shaped by how you see your environment. This is why self-awareness is so powerful. It gives you the ability to catch automatic beliefs in real time. For example, if you find yourself saying, "I always mess this up," that's not just a passing comment, it's a cue to your subconscious and to yourselves. Recognizing that moment allows you to pause, question it, and choose a different thought. Maybe it becomes, "I'm learning through every experience." That slight shift, repeated often enough, begins to change the emotional tone you live in and the biological patterns that tone creates.
At the same time, the book invites you to be gentle with the process. Changing long-held beliefs isn't about force, it's about attention. You don't have to uproot your entire identity overnight. You just start by noticing. Noticing where your thoughts come from. Noticing how your body reacts. Noticing when you're operating from survival instead of presence. And then, with that awareness, choosing differently, even in small ways. One breath, one word, one pattern. A powerful tool Lipton brings forward is the idea of coherence between the heart and brain. When your thoughts and emotions are aligned, your nervous system becomes more balanced. You make better decisions. You recover faster. You feel more connected. Practices like gratitude, deep breathing, and heart-focused meditation help bring these systems into harmony. It's not just about feeling better. It's about creating a physical state where growth and healing are more likely to occur. This physiological coherence also supports intuition. When you're not stuck in fight or flight mode, you're more attuned to subtle signals, both within yourself and in your environment. You begin to sense what choices are aligned. You become more responsive, less reactive. Your biology becomes a tool for clarity rather than a source of confusion. And with that clarity comes confidence, not based on control, but on inner alignment.
It's also important to understand how belief interacts with community. The people you surround yourself with can either reinforce your new beliefs or pull you back into old ones. If you're trying to build a belief in abundance but constantly hear messages of scarcity, it becomes harder for the new pattern to stick. That's not about blame, it's about strategy. Curate your environment. Seek out voices, relationships, and spaces that reflect the biology you want to live in. Even your physical environment can act as reinforcement. Small things like the music you play, the images you see,
the books on your shelf, they all influence your subconscious. You're constantly being programmed, whether intentionally or not. When you start choosing what you expose yourself to, you start designing your own internal code. And with that code comes a new blueprint for how your body functions. What this all points to is a shift from passive living to intentional creation. No longer are you just reacting to life, you're co-authoring it. And as Lipton makes clear, this doesn't mean you have control over every outcome, but you do have influence over your internal response. And that influence is where real power lies. It's where change begins. It's where biology starts to reflect belief, not the other way around. In the end, this isn't about perfection. It's about remembering that your cells are always listening. Your biology isn't working against you, it's working with the signals it's receiving. The more clearly those signals align with who you want to become, the more easily your biology can support that path. This is the essence of the book's message. You are not a victim of your genes. You are a living, evolving system of perception, choice, and possibility.
The more you align with this way of thinking, the more you realize how deeply interconnected everything is: thoughts, emotions, environment, and physical well-being. Each belief isn't just a statement in your mind, it's a trigger for a biological cascade. You may believe you're not good enough, and your body interprets that belief as a stressor. Your chemistry changes, your energy drops, your choices shrink. But when you begin to believe you are capable, deserving, and safe to grow, the signals to your cells shift accordingly. Possibility enters the system. This isn't simply about positive thinking, it's about aligned thinking. Lipton shows that beliefs create measurable changes in cellular behavior, not because they're optimistic, but because they generate new internal conditions. A belief in healing activates different genetic expressions than a belief in decline. A belief in abundance generates different neurological patterns than a belief in scarcity. This is what makes beliefs so powerful. It's not a vague hope, it's a biological instruction. And what makes that instruction stronger is repetition and emotion. When you consistently repeat a belief, and especially when that belief is felt in the body, it gets installed more deeply. Saying, "I am calm," has one effect. But breathing slowly, feeling your heartbeat steady, and imagining a peaceful outcome while saying, "I am calm," that anchors the belief in both mind and body. That's where change gains traction. That's how the subconscious gets re-educated.
It's also how old programs start to lose their grip. Lipton explains that many of our limiting beliefs were installed in childhood, often unconsciously. A parent's frustration, a teacher's criticism, a society's prejudice. These messages were absorbed before we had filters, and they settled in as truths. But as adults, we have the power to question and replace them. The moment you realize, this thought isn't mine, it was handed to me, you create distance. And in that distance, there's room to choose again. One of the most transformative ideas in the book is that your body isn't broken. It's responding perfectly to the signals it's given. If you've lived under chronic stress, your body adapted to protect you. If you've struggled with fatigue or disconnection, your biology was likely trying to conserve energy under pressure. This shift in perspective from blame to understanding changes how you relate to yourself. You stop fighting your biology. You start working with it. This cooperation invites healing, not just physical, but emotional and psychological. Healing doesn't always mean curing. It means coming into wholeness. It means giving your body, mind, and spirit the environment they need to reconnect. Sometimes that's through rest. Sometimes it's through movement. Sometimes it's through rewriting beliefs that have kept you stuck in survival mode. And sometimes it's simply through reminding yourself, again and again, that you
are not your past programming.
Lipton emphasizes that every cell in your body is capable of responding to change. The old idea that your genes are your fate is no longer valid. What matters more is the environment around your genes, and you have more influence over that environment than you've been led to believe. Your beliefs, your thoughts, your relationships, your food, your stress levels, your sleep, they all act as messengers to your biology. You're not stuck, you're adaptable, and that adaptability is a kind of quiet superpower. But belief without action doesn't lead to integration. You have to live in alignment with what you want your biology to support. If you believe you're worthy of love, but continually stay in situations that deny that truth, your cells get confused. But if you believe in love and begin setting boundaries, speaking your needs, and treating yourself kindly, your biology gets the message. The coherence between belief and behavior is what tells your system, this is real. The final takeaway isn't that you can control every outcome, it's that you can influence your internal world in a way that supports growth, healing, and clarity. You begin to see yourself not as a fixed identity, but as a dynamic, living system that can evolve. Your biology becomes a reflection of your consciousness, not perfectly, not instantly, but gradually, steadily, and with deep intelligence. It listens to what you believe, and what you believe shapes what you become.
The path forward isn't always easy, but it is real. With each conscious breath, each intentional thought, and each act of self-care, you create new instructions for your body to follow. You become a living example of belief in action. And over time, those actions become a rhythm, a steady signal that says, I am growing, I am healing, I am not my programming, I am becoming. Lipton's work reminds us that science and spirit are not separate. They are both lenses on the same truth. We are more powerful than we've been told. We are systems of energy, emotion, and awareness. And when those systems are aligned, we are capable of extraordinary things. Not because of luck, not because of external rescue, but because belief, when supported by action, becomes biology, and biology becomes life. So the invitation is simple. Observe what you believe. Question what no longer fits. Choose what supports your becoming. Because every cell in your body is listening, and the message you send is creating the life you live.